Pioneering surf parks took 10 years to go from pipe dream to paying customers. 10 years! How can digging a hole, filling it with water, agitating that water, and asking people for money be so incredibly complicated? Today's wave pool projects get done on a much shorter timeline, thanks to lessons learned from those early adopters in the space. In Wave Pool Mag sessions, we hear from the brightest minds in the business. Everything's on the table topic-wise, from choosing a tech provider to maximizing food and beverage revenue, and more. So join us for Wave Pool Mag sessions. Hello and welcome to Wave Pool Mag Friday sessions. Today we dig into human resources and hiring practices at wave pools. Employees are the biggest expense for a surf park, and a good employee can make or break a business. How do you find an employee who's good, who will be true to the brand's objectives, and members who will stick around or return season to season? Today we have two guests who will help us better understand the process. Andy Coachafer is the operations director at The Wave. In his role, he's instrumental in the organization's development and growth, including recruiting and training the entire operational team. Giovanni Piro is surf operations supervisor at Alaia Bay. Gio is in charge of seasonal hiring at Alaia and oversees several other aspects of the park's operations. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for having us.
So today we'll just start off with some general questions because it's such a huge subject. There's so much going on within hiring and within staff. So I said it's the largest expense for a wave pool. Is that true? Like within your budgets, is what you pay to employees more than running the machine, electricity, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's probably the biggest single expense. Takes about 40% of our OpEx is on people. If you added everything else together, that'll probably just outweigh it. But it's definitely a huge expense in the business and a huge investment.
Okay, and then Gio, would you say the same for Alaia Bay?
Absolutely. There's a huge human capital involved, which represents an important percentage of our budget. So yeah, I agree with Andy saying that definitely hiring has a big impact on our seasonal budget.
Okay. And let's, before we go on, I forgot to mention, people watching, at the end of the show, you can, in about half hour, 45 minutes, you can submit your questions to just hit the little chat icon that should appear at the bottom of your screen or the app if you're watching from your phone, and just ask your questions, and Andy and Gio would be happy to answer those. Okay, moving into it, Andy, how many people does the Wave hire?
So it fluctuates massively, which is probably one of the things we're going to talk about a lot during this podcast. And going from the winter to the summer, we're over doubling our headcount. We run a core team, and that's everything from the operational team to the head office and the back of house. We run from about 80 to 90 people in that core team, and that's over the winter months. And we can ramp that up depending on the contracts, because that's another huge topic that we could probably spend hours talking about. But we ramp that up anything up to about 220, 230 employees in the height of summer, and that'll be on a
wow.
Yeah, and it'll be a variety of contracts, everything from sort of full-time 40-hour contracts to casual workers that'll just join us for 1 day a week. So it's a huge amount of people that we fluctuate between the winter and the summer.
Okay, and Gio, how about you over at Alaia Bay? What is your how many people does it take to keep Switzerland's wave pool up and running?
As Andy mentioned before, we do have a pretty important fluctuation between what we call low season and high season. Low season, we count about 20 employees. I mean, it's definitely a smaller scale of an operation and of a team. And we can go up to 100, considering the whole departments of, surf ops, restaurant, all the back of house, and yeah, up to 100, I would say.
Okay. And then the interesting thing about this is you obviously, both pools have been up and running for a few seasons now. and you want to hire and keep good employees. And is that with such a heavy seasonality, is that hard to keep someone who will stick around? Or do you have seasonal employees who return every year?
Well, I would say obviously having a seasonal business is sometimes it's not too easy to have always the same people that come back every season. But at the same time, I think we offer a great working experience, a great working environment. It's pretty healthy. You walk a lot. I know it's long hours, it's tiring sometimes, but I think it's very much beneficial to your whole life. So if you treat your employees well and you give them good perks and the working conditions are great, they just want to come back. Even if at the end of the season they might be tired, they might be saying, "Yeah, I look for something else." Give them a few months and you receive an email because they want to come back.
Okay. And then, I wanted to go into back to my first question, kind of jumping around a bit here, but we'll get more into seasonal because it sounds like, as Andy mentioned, that's a whole other section, like many parts of this conversation, including contracts and national standards that you have to adhere to. But going back to your wave pools, respectively, how much of your OpEx is operational expenses is staffing?
So for us, it's probably 40 to 50%.
Okay.
I do not have this information.
Okay.
But roughly, I would say it's the same as the wave. I mean, I don't see how it could be less because, as we're both saying, it's such a big part of the business, and it represents more or less that, I would say.
Okay, all right. And moving along, when you're hiring people to come on and work, what is some of the how do you know if someone's a good hire, and what makes a good team member? Because you're looking for someone who's enthusiastic, who takes care of guests, and works well with everyone else. I was telling Andy earlier when I was at the Wave this year, I saw a lot of the employees after work, having a beer together, and it's just there's a really good ambience at a lot of the surf parks around the world. So how do you find someone who fits in well?
It's a great question, and it's about hiring on attitude. We don't necessarily have to hire someone that can do the job perfectly. We can train that. What we can't train is that attitude of passion, the attitude that they want everybody that walks through the doors of one of these surf parks, that they're going to have the best time. They're going to leave here with a huge smile on their face, want to tell their friends and want to come back time after time. I think we're still quite at an early stage in the surf park world. So if we were all looking for somebody who had been a surf technician, or they'd been even a surf coach, there's just not enough people in the world to do these roles, because we're in the first few surf parks that are out at the moment, and in the UK we're the first one of its type. So we have to make sure we get the right people with the right attitude that are really passionate about what we're doing here, and that's more than surfing. That's about our cafe, that's our retail, that's everything that we do. And then we teach them the skills that we need in order for them to be successful in their role. And like Gio says, making sure the packages that we're offering are appealing, and people get a chance to experience it themselves, and they get plenty of surf time, and they want to be here, and they want to show our customers what an amazing venues these surf parks are.
And Gio, what do you look for?
I mean, Andy just nailed it. It's just is the attitude. I'm gonna hire somebody that maybe lacks a bit of experience, maybe doesn't have all the qualifications that we might require. But if you're showing me the willingness to walk through the extra mile, just dive in and work with the whole team, doing different kind of jobs, not only stick to your job, it's kind of telling me that you really want to be part of our project. So absolutely, it's an attitude hire. We can teach, we can train. We're trying to develop also our training program. Still at an early stage, it's not that easy, but we can definitely teach you how to work with us, with our method. What we cannot teach you, as Andy said, is how you would behave and you integrate in the whole team.
Okay. Well, going along that theme and looking for someone with enthusiasm, someone with the right attitude to fit in with the team, can you describe what the ideal candidate would look like? Surfing background, hospitality background, whatever, whatever works to staff your place.
I think the honest answer there, Brian, is no, because we've got people that came to us with no knowledge of surfing, and within our team, they came in potentially a front of house in our cafe, and then they moved into surf ops. We trained them as lifeguards, we trained them as surf coaches. They surf here all the time and became some of the best surf coaches that we've had, just because they do have that attitude of they want to make people have a good time. They're enthusiastic, they're great team players. So are we only looking for people that are knowledgeable about surfer or experienced in surfing? No. Am I looking for somebody who wants to get there? Absolutely. And you can tell that when you interview people and when you meet people by the way they interact with others, the way that they talk to you, and how they go about presenting themselves. And like we've said before, we can train you to be a barista, a lifeguard, a groundskeeper, whatever we need to train you in, we can get there. And obviously we're going to look for people with experience in those roles, and that's a step forward. And there are some roles that it's pretty non-negotiable, but we're looking for those people that want to make sure that people coming here experience that atmosphere that you did, where the team get on well together, the customers and the team interact well together, and it makes a really good vibe that everyone's loving being here. And then the skills can come and we can train that. But I think the diversity that we have here in all the different roles means that I'm not going to sit in an interview for somebody for a retail assistant and sit in an interview with someone for a lifeguard and a surf coach or a maintenance technician and look for a tick box, because they're all different people, they're all different personalities, and as long as they're contributing to the overall team, then there's a place here for them.
Okay. And Gio, do you follow the same? You train most of your staff to be the ideal employee that Alaia Bay wants, or do they bring in something a little more? It sounds like Andy's system at the Wave is very much developed in-house and is working really well for them.
I think what they developed at the Wave is absolutely great, and for us it's a little bit too early still to develop an internal program to train our employees. Still, it's true that I agree with Andy, meaning that there's not an ideal candidate, but as a company choice, we try to get really the best coaches in the market. We hire people with multiple years of experience at the beach, ideally. Obviously, very other important thing, we are in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, and although Switzerland is a country where people speak multiple languages, including English, we must hire somebody who speaks French fluently, because that would really impact our operations. Of course, people that are motivated like myself, I didn't speak any French at all when I was hired here, but I learned in a few months, and I was able to deliver a course in French. So language, unfortunately, is a bit of a restriction, and we try to have really very experienced coaches coming from France, from whatever country, Spain, all around the world, all around Europe. And also, you mentioned before national regulations. Switzerland, not being part of the European Union, has some restrictions, and so we need to also take that into consideration. So it's not super easy to find what we would think is our ideal candidate, but eventually, people are motivated to come here, and we've already finished our hiring, and I think we are very well equipped for 2024. We've got a great team.
Okay. And you bring up a point that I hadn't really considered, the difference between the UK and Switzerland, or England and Switzerland. How, Gio, you've worked in both places. I found out you know Andy from the Wave from when you worked there before going to.
Andy, for whoever is listening, Andy was my boss at the Wave. And I learned a lot from him, so always grateful for this opportunity.
So going from the Wave and the UK employment regulations compared to what you go through in Switzerland, would you say there's more regulations for hiring in Switzerland, or are there fewer regulations? Is it
a very good question. Sorry.
Is it as much red tape as a lot of Americans would imagine it is, or what's been your experience?
So when I was hired at the Wave, the UK was still part of the European Union. So it was the easiest thing for me to get hired. I didn't have to do much, honestly. And with the European passport, same thing in Switzerland. I just had to, it was very, very, very easy process. I believe that now with the UK being outside of the European Union, and Switzerland has always been for people that do not belong to the European Union. So people coming from, the US, Australia, the UK, it's pretty tough to hire them because obviously we need to prioritize Swiss employees. But at the same time, in Switzerland, there's no surfing. So it's pretty hard to find an experienced Swiss coach. Even though we have some, it's still a bit tough. So we need to recruit from outside Switzerland. Fortunately, it's pretty easy. I don't know now in terms of hiring in the UK how it works and the challenges that Andy and the team have to face.
Well, Andy, you were what's your view of regulations in the UK?
Yeah, it's not too bad at the moment. It's not too difficult, and we do have some coaches and some team members coming in from Europe still. It hasn't tightened up as much as we thought it could have done. It's definitely had an effect, but yeah, it's not too bad at the moment.
Okay, all right. And going back to Gio, you brought up a really good point. You were talking about culture, and within Switzerland, I noticed when I went to Alaia Bay, you have a great team, all seemingly from Italy, who run the kitchen, who run the cafe there. So when you're there, it's like, okay, here's your coffee. It's there. Whereas out when you're getting your wetsuit or your board, it's a little more, like, oh, here, does this one work? It's a little more, softer or customer oriented. Having so many people from so many different regions and so many different countries and cultural backgrounds work in one place, how does that work for you? Does it make it easier? Does it make it more difficult?
That's a super good question. I think people just get at the end of the day, they just get used to coexist, even though they come from a different walk of life and different background. Surely at the beginning is a bit complicated, to make things coexist, because I might come from my walk of life, my background, and have a different experience and want to do the things a certain way, and the other person, would clash because has different ideas. That's why we try, obviously, to prioritize the contact with the people and make sure that, kindness is always there, and we provide an optimal and excellent customer service in each position, either a lifeguard, surf guide, or a surf instructor. And at the end of the day, we are pushed and moved by the same motivation, which is surfing. People come here because they want to experience surfing in this amazing place. We all want to surf, and once we are in the water, we're all friends, and so I would say surfing is a big plus that we use to do team building, and people are just happy when they get out of the water, so that helps a lot, the integration. Also, Switzerland is a country where many different cultures and nationalities coexist, so I think is really in the DNA of people working here. People, you discover a new culture, but then you suddenly realize that there are so many, and it's just a pleasure to integrate it, to discover new experiences and new cultures. So I wouldn't say it's a problem. It just takes a bit of time to create a group, but once the group is created, it's a very good group.
Okay. And you mentioned surfing is kind of the glue that ties all the employees together. What percentage of your staff surfs?
Of my stuff, I think all of them.
Okay,
All of them. Yeah, they all come from a surfing background. Many people come from the sea, the ocean, and they need, it's a need that they feel to surf. So for surfers, it's a bit of a drug, and I understand. So I would say probably 90%, if not all of them, 90% of my employees of my team, they all want to surf, and they are surfers.
And Andy?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to Gio because we have the same sort of situation here, that we have people from different backgrounds and not necessarily different nationalities. But when you take a kitchen team that we've recruited from various different kitchens around the country and compare those to a campsite team, or compare them to a team of surf coaches, the speed at which people work, the way that they work is completely different. And that's what makes it such an amazing place, that it's not just the same people with the same attitude, with the same all the way through. It's different, which is fantastic. I don't think we're quite as high as Geo. Like I said earlier, everything that we do is in-house. So our campsite is fully staffed by us. Our kitchen is fully staffed by us. Our contact center is all Wave staff. So we have a lot of different positions, and not all of them are necessarily interested in getting in the water and surfing themselves. What everyone is passionate about is making sure that everyone that walks through those doors has the best surfing experience. And one of the things that we say is we're more than surfing. We have a play park, we have a skate ramp, we have more things to do here than just surf. And we don't care whether you want to come in and surf expert barrels, or whether you want to bring your kids down on a Saturday to use the play park and the skate ramp. As long as you're having a good time and you got a smile on your face, then that's what matters to us. And it's the same for our team. We have members of our kitchen team that don't necessarily surf, but will come down here for a coffee with their family and enjoy the facility. So it's still high. Don't get me wrong. When we're getting constant pestering for more staff surfing, the demand is definitely there, and we're probably in the 70-80% up there, but probably not quite as high as Geo's.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for sharing that information. Now, this staff that it sounds like each of you have very much cultivated a great employee culture at your respective surf parks. Let's jump into seasonality and how through the season you go from, it sounded like Andy had a third of the staff that he does during peak season. And then Gio, I know during summer you've got 14, 15 hours of daylight, 16 maybe. And, how do you take advantage of that? Who wants to jump in?
So it's, as you mentioned, during summer, we're open up to 16 hours a day. You've been there, you've witnessed that. And something that allows us to do that is the floodlights that we have around the pool. I know that you guys at the Wave are trying to get those floodlights as well. That makes operation definitely longer. And we operate until like 11 at night. So we need to split the team in 2 shifts. That's absolutely necessary, especially lifeguards. They cannot work so many hours in a row. And that's super important, running safety as the best we can. And I would say also we have a pool of people that live locally that perhaps have worked with us before, and that we keep as extras that we might call in case of need. I guess Andy does the same, but I also guess it's a bit easier for Andy to recruit and to source people locally because there's more coaches, there's more availability. For us, it's a bit more complicated because once somebody commits to a certain day to the end of his contract, I mean, that's the period of time he's going to work or she's going to work. And if at a moment of the year, of the season, we need more people, more coaches, it's really, really important for us to have this pool of locals that can jump in and give a hand when we really need.
Okay, and Andy, how do you fluctuate through the season? So how do you make that work? I think about it and it just sounds like a nightmare.
It's a challenge, but we deal with it. So we're, as Joe said, we don't have floodlights yet. Keep your eyes peeled. We don't have floodlights just yet. So we're dictated by light and weather. So we operate from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. in the summer because that's what our planning permission allows for the waves. And then in the winter, we're down from 8 till 4. And that's simply dictated by the amount of light that we've got. So that's how we set the baseline there. And then the other thing to take into consideration is the weather, similar to Geo, and the temperature of the water. So through the months of January and most of February, we don't run beginner lessons because the water gets too cold. We still have the reef on, where we still have the more advanced surfers with the thicker wetsuits, and they know what they're expecting, so to speak. But a beginner lesson when the water's 5 degrees is pretty miserable. So we fluctuate with the temperatures and with the light. We also have the other sort of complication in there that our campsite is open for so many months of the year. So we're open from March through till the start of November. So if we have people staying with us, we need a camp team, but we also need a restaurant and kitchen team that can cater through to the evening as well. So surfing may finish at 4, but if we've got people staying in the camp, then they'll want to eat in the evening, they'll want somewhere to go. So we have huge fluctuations based on the seasonality. How do we deal with that? Is we have a great core team, and we do have the ability to train in-house, but obviously our primary requirement, well, like what would be best for us is to get those surf coaches with experience in surf coaching and get the chefs in. But we have a core team of chefs, baristas, but we keep on, and coaches and lifeguards that we keep on all year round, and they give us that ability to train new people when we go into the bigger season. I think the key thing that I've really learned is being honest with people, letting them know that we can absolutely offer them a 7, 8, 9 month contract. There'll be a break, but we want them back next summer, and we want them back for the season, and we'll get them contracted before they leave so that people know what they're doing. And if they want to go traveling, they want to go surfing around the world for a couple of months, then they can do that, and they've got a job when they come back to it. And it's not sort of promising, oh, maybe. It's actually being clear to them from the start, we can give you this contract for this amount of time, then there'll be a break, but we'd love to have you back again. And like we've said all along, making sure that there's a great atmosphere, there's a great culture here, there's great benefits here, there's plenty of surfing, so they do want to come back. And actually, for some people, it's nice to have a month or 2 off where they can go traveling, do something completely different, and then come back refreshed and revitalized, ready for a new season.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I know the crew from Wave Park in South Korea, the core crew there who head to the Philippines while Wave Park is closed during the winter, and then come back when it reopens. So I'm sure both of you have staff who are in Indonesia right now, I guess.
Yes, but any of those, to be honest, many of those of my staff are also working on the slopes.
So okay, that's right, because you have skiing.
It's pretty amazing actually and that's why many people want to come here and accept seasonal contract, because they are used to having their winter season on the slopes and in the mountain, and once that's over, it's just a natural progression to come down to Valley and try to work at Alaia, and which I think is a great balance, because you work hard during summer, and then you go back to the snow and these magical mountains. I'm not a skier myself, but I'm discovering this world, and it's amazing. So that's a great benefit my team have.
Okay, and then for Andy, for you mentioned sometimes with the weather you have to close, like when your lake froze over, or there's a snowstorm, or something to that nature. How do you deal with employees? Like, you have to say, okay, there's no work today, or how does that work? I'm very curious.
Yeah, so there's various different things we can do. The long and the short of it is, a lot of the time we don't have a huge amount of notice, so it's not like we know that on this day. I was looking at the figures earlier, actually. So 2 years ago, the lake froze in December. This year, it was in late January. It was in early January. So we can't really plan for it. We know it's somewhere between December and February when we have those cold snaps. How do we deal with the employees? That there are some that we will give the option of do you not want to work today? And some people just will happily have a day off or a weekend off, or because we fluctuate our opening times as well. So in the summer, we're obviously open 7 days a week, but during the winter, at the moment, we're just open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you're working every weekend for a stint of 3 months, having a weekend off, some people just actually enjoy that, and we give them the option to do that. And the other thing is that there's always things to do around. We've used this time really valuable actually in the past, where we've had 2 weekends where we're closed, and we've used that to give the place a real good clean down, where we can almost reset the decks, especially ramping up to the summer season where we can get some maintenance done. So we can redeploy those. And this is a really important point. I think Gio will agree with me here, is having a team that are willing to do different things and muck in. And if there are opportunities, I mean, we had people on the weekends that we were closed where we jet washed the entire patio out the front of a lake. And if you're willing to do different things and work in different departments and muck in, then there's still work to do. It doesn't mean that it's shut, so therefore nobody's on site. And it sometimes does give us that opportunity to stop and say, right, let's really reset those decks. Let's make sure that it's not great for anybody that we're closed. We've got disappointed surfers, we've got disappointed team, but let's use this time that when people walk back through the doors, they see what we've been up to while we've been closed. So having a versatile team that are willing to turn their hand to anything really helps. And again, in this time, the one that we've just closed, we utilised some of that team to help us start getting the camp ready for opening. So there are still things to do. It's not just a case of shut the door and send everybody home.
Okay. So that would make sense. You can assign people other tasks when it's a time.
Absolutely. And then there's always the constant challenge of training. That we want to continue to train our team, and especially around things like lifeguards. And once you get into that summer season and it's full pedal to the metal, finding half a day where you can go through all of your training, or finding a full day, is really hard to do once we're open from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. 7 days a week. Even just finding the space on the site is difficult to deliver that. So actually having some days where we can say, right, let's bring all the team in together. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. Let's go through some training. Let's make sure everybody's really operating at the highest standard. And then that way we can make use of the time.
Okay. And Gio, do you find that the employees at Alaia Bay are as willing to be and versatile in the duties that they undertake? You know, a lifeguard ready to jet wash a deck?
That's what I look for during the interview, that willingness to do more, you know. And I remember the very first year we tried to, you know, go operate through winter. It was not possible because, you know, Switzerland is it's really cold during winter, so it was not possible. And we offered the opportunity to some staff to, you know, make their season longer, to stay here and run a bit of maintenance, break some ice and clean and everything. And everybody was super nice and super, you know, open to this kind of opportunity. So I absolutely agree with Andy. It's a bit more difficult for us to keep people within the same facility because we don't run accommodation. The restaurant closes when we stop operation. But for example, the kitchen team, they can move to the other restaurant that we have up in the mountain. So there's always stuff to do. We offer opportunity to our employees to make their season longer. It is also true that some of them, after such a long season, they just want to travel. They have some money saved and they want to just recharge the batteries, do something else, either do a winter season, either travel to Mentawai and surf. And I completely understand that. So, but if I ask them to do something extra, they're absolutely willing to work extra hours to help us.
Wow, that's great. It sounds like you're both blessed with great employees who are really dedicated. So that's awesome to hear. Is a lot of the appeal of this format is for people running surf parks, people developing surf parks, people in the industry. What advice would you give to someone so they could be prepared to meet the demand of hiring fluctuations through the seasons? Like if you have some knowledge to share with people starting their own HR procedure at a wave pool that's yet to be opened.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Andy.
So we've covered it slightly, and that would be, it depends on the location of the park, I guess, and sort of the surfers around it. But we needed to look at another way that we could bring in more lifeguards, more coaches, due to the volume that we need. I mean, in the peak of summer, we're looking at 35, 40 coaches that we would have on our books, and we're competing with all the beaches, obviously. So just sitting here thinking that 40 brilliant surf coaches are going to walk through the door, it's not going to happen. So the best thing we've ever done, we've worked very closely with the RLSS, with ISA, that we can deliver our own courses in-house. So we can train lifeguards here, and we can train surf coaches and qualify them in-house, which has been absolutely instrumental. And that goes across our business as well. Obviously, our senior chefs are chefs and have been trained in the standard way, but bringing people in that are passionate about food and training them how to cook the Waves food has been, again, instrumental in allowing us to be able to do that. So my advice would be, obviously, where you can, you're going to fill those positions with people that are already qualified doing those positions. But if you can't, hire on that attitude and find a way that you can train them in-house to be what you need. And it's incredible for us because we pay for those courses. So for somebody can come to the Wave with a interest in sport, interest in surfing, and as long as they can surf the intermediate wave, if they can't, they can start in a different department. But in the surf coaching, as long as they can surf the intermediate wave, they can qualify as a lifeguard, which we will pay for. They'll qualify as a surf coach, which we pay for. And then they can work. What we ask is, if they do that, they work for us for a season, and then they can come back to us time and time again. Or alternatively, if they want to take that new qualification, go to Indonesia, Australia, Portugal, wherever they want with it, they've now got something under their belt that they can say. And that's just, it's great for us to share that we can qualify people here and they can go around the world and share that with people. But also it's great for us that we can bring in people who are passionate about surfing and turn them into the coaches that we need. So my advice would be, don't just look for exactly what you need. Look for the right attitude and the right people, and then find a way that you can get them where you need them to be.
Yeah. And Gio, would you have advice for up and coming wave pools?
Absolutely. The first advice is use wave pool jobs. I think it's a super cool platform that you guys know. It's been created by the former project manager for Alaia Bay, your colleague Bruno, and where every employer, every wave pool in the world can post and advertise their jobs, and potential wave pool candidates can find their suitable position. So I think it's a great platform. It's a great idea. And I think it's going to be very beneficial for the business in the long term. Also, another advice I would say is be honest, as Andy said, and I completely agree with him. You need to be honest and straight with your employees and manage expectations as well. Because many people, for example, they come working with us and they have a different experience. Maybe they come from the beach where the work is maybe heavier in terms of lifeguarding and coaching as well. And they come here and they suddenly realize that the operation is different, and maybe they relax a bit. So manage expectation. Just tell them it's going to be a tough season, but they're going to be rewarded for their job and their performance. And also manage the surfing expectations. Many people, and it happened to myself as well. I mean, I just wanted to surf and surf and surf and surf more, but then the more you grow and the more you work in this environment, you understand that it's a business. The investment needs to be repaid, so people need to actually do their job. And surfing is a great perk and a great part of this business. I mean, all people want to surf, but just do not expect to surf all the time during summer. We need to give the priority to customer. We need to fill in the pool with people, make them experience this brilliant invention, this brilliant experience. And so managing expectation, in my opinion, is very important.
Okay, it's interesting you bring up employees surfing, because when I was at the Wave, I spoke with a few people who, Andy, you guys have come up with a really great system for your employees to be able to surf. I think it's a couple times a week, and then there's like after a certain amount, it's like half price, or could you explain how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that's developed over time, and we've started with a model, and we've grown that. So what we do, first of all, is up to 4 times a week we have a staff surf, which is outside of the normal hours. It's just all the staff together, and it's not open to the public, and they can go and surf. I say up to because in the summer we'll do that 4 days a week. But in the winter, if we're only open 3 days a week, then we wouldn't be doing 4 staff surfs. So, but that's something we put on for the team. And what we found about that is that's amazing for the team bonding. Just them all being in together. And that's whether you've got a cleaner with a chef, with a surf coach, with a maintenance technician, with a CEO, with whoever it is, everybody's in there together. And that's amazing for the team. So we've continued to run that. Then we have a couple of other systems. So first of all, if every 90 hours that the team works, so every 2 weeks, we just give them a free token, and they can either use that or they can gift that to a friend, and that's for a public session, and they can just go on whichever one they want, or they could gift it to a family member. And they can book that anytime. And then the final one is on the day, they can book any surf at a 75% discount. Right. So there's a load of opportunity there, ranging from the sort of 75 to the free to the exclusive staff. But it gives everyone that opportunity either to surf with a team, bring their family, or to gift it if they want to. And it's gone down really well. And Gio's absolutely right. It's really it's really important that we're honest with our employees, because everybody is from an interest in surfing, but what we're about is making sure that our customers have the best possible surf experience. And that doesn't always tie in with people's expectations, especially if they've come from the beach and it's relaxed and it's chilled out. It's actually really hard work to run a surf park that feels completely chilled out and relaxed and smooth running. So I guess it's the old duck scenario of the feet under the water are paddling hard so it looks seamless on the surface. And sometimes there is a little bit of a difference in people's expectations. They think they're coming to a surf park, so it'll be really laid back. And there's some things that we can't be, especially around sort of things like sessions timings. Everybody's got to be on time or people are missing out. And obviously the all-important health and safety, that it's just not chilled out. We cannot negotiate that. So therefore, we need to make sure that everyone is really of the opinion they're coming here to work hard to make sure everybody has the best time, and it's not just them coming here to have a really good surf time. So, but yeah, that's what we do for our team, and it seems to go down really well.
Yeah, and Gio, what does Alaia Bay do for their employees for surfing?
It's pretty much the same model as the Wave. I think there's like a few differences. Maybe we run less staff sessions and staff surfs during the week, especially during summer. We really prioritize the customer, and we almost don't run staff sessions, probably just one per week. During time of the year, when we are a bit less busy, we have the opportunity to run more weekly staff surfs. And also every 5 days of work, our employees receive one surf token. So it's maybe less staff sessions, but more opportunities to surf whenever you actually want during your day off. Obviously, in that optic, we try to prioritize our customers, saying to our staff to book maybe 1 hour before to make sure we fill in all the spots, and then they can jump in. But yeah, and also staff perks in terms of discount. We offer significant discounts on session packs. So I would say that it's a comprehensive and pretty advantageous packs of benefit for employees.
So that's really cool. I've learned heaps throughout this conversation, and the conversation went a little more meandering than the questions I'd front-loaded with you guys. Before we close out and shift over to questions, did you want to add anything we might have missed out on?
Yes, I wanted to add another thing.
Yes.
Regarding what kind of advice would you give to other operators, surf park enthusiasts and everything. I think like Andy and the team does at the Wave, it's really, really important you can develop your own training program, and that would give you the freedom to train the people the way you want, the way you like, and it will give you also more options in terms of choosing the right people. The pool of extra that I was talking about I think it's really, really important that each and every pool develops its own training program. Also because depending on the size of the pool, for example, we've got a standalone wave garden. We are very, very small. So in terms of surfing experience, it's pretty different compared to a standard size wave garden. So what how I might train my employees might differ from what the guys do in Melbourne or at the Wave. So train your employees the way you want to do what you want, depending on your environmental context, the size of your pool, the style of the operation. I think it's really, really important to have an in-house training program.
All right. And Andy, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, obviously I echo what Gio said, and I think the only thing I would say is get in touch. I mean, if you don't have to be a surfer that knows everything about surfing to come and enjoy what we do here. We're about health, well-being, blue health, and everyone can benefit from that. And whether you become a surf coach or work in the kitchen, then there's opportunity, and there's different opportunities. And we've got some real success stories where we've had one member of staff that started as a kitchen porter, worked his way up through the kitchen system to CDP, and then actually his college and his university is in IT. So he's now actually doing part-time work in our systems and IT team, and is a massive credit to both departments. But it just shows that there's so much opportunity in these parks that it's not just surfing, and that's why we're really priding ourselves on saying that we are more than surfing. So anyone who's interested in just working at a great place, explore any of these parks, because they're amazing places to be, whether you're a surfer or not.
Well, that sounds great. Going into this, there was knew just a little, and now I feel like I've learned heaps about the employment thread through two wonderful surf parks. So thank you very much. We're going to turn it over to questions. It looks like we've got two here, and going in the chat room. Okay, hang on. That was not as smooth as I'd hoped. Okay. Max wants to know, how much time does it take to onboard and train all of your staff before opening or reopening your surf park? That's a great question, Max. How long does it take to train someone so they're an adequate employee?
There are a few variables, in my opinion. Obviously, if a high percentage of your team is coming back, so if you're working with people that you worked with before, it's way easier. You almost need to do nothing, maybe a refresher, just a few updates. But it's really, really easy to work like that. If you're changing your team and hiring people that maybe come to the beach, they're used to some kind of teaching methods. It takes, in my opinion, 2 weeks at least to fully train them, to get them used to the waves, because all our employees, they surf before we open, because they need to know the waves by heart. They need to know the names, how they break. They need to know the danger areas, for example, the lifeguards, currents, and so on. So it's obviously something that takes time. And in my opinion, I wouldn't use less than 2 weeks to run a full training for them before we open.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree with Gio. It's so variable. I mean, we can get a brand new coach who's gone through our training course, and they have to do their 20 hours shadowing, and they then have to do their induction effing, and that's a 2 or 3 week. However, if we've got an experienced barista that has been a barista for years and comes into our cafe, then it can be a day or two of just making sure that they've covered everything from a company perspective. And they've done all the sort of stuff that we need to do from a wave point of view, but actually going in and using the coffee machine, they're experts already. So it's very, very small. So, but what we try and do is somewhere between a week and 2 weeks is sort of a standard induction. And then you may get some people that are super experienced. And just like Gio said, we're lucky that we have about 44% of our seasonal positions are filled by returners. So again, that's an update, that's a refresher, and they're good to go.
Okay. And one last question, it looks like, from Fred, who wants to know how Fred can get a job at a wave pool. What would you recommend to someone who wants to come work with you? Good
question. Get in touch, really. visit our website, get to the career section, shoot us an email, either for a spontaneous application, either if you find a role that you think fits your profile, shoot us an email. We're going to get back to you. And also, as I mentioned before, visit wavepooljobs.com, where you can find different opportunities all around the world. No matter if you're in Europe and you want to go to Australia, you're going to find something. Upcoming projects, not only operational positions, many different jobs are available on wavepooljobs.com.
Okay, great. Andy, any last words of advice for someone looking for work at the Wave in Bristol?
No, I echo what Gio said. I imagine that all of the surf parks will have pretty similar. If you go onto our website, for example, it'll list the current jobs, or you can register your interest if there's not something there that necessarily you want to do, or might not be the right time of year, you can register your interest, and I imagine they're all the same, and Wavepool jobs as well. So get on there, have a look, see what we've got to do. Also have a look at the websites as well, see what could be available on these sites, and yeah, apply.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you so much, Gio. And this has been really, really great. Max writes in, thanks for the great insights and for sharing. And I'm echoing that. Thank you very much. Learned heaps, and it was great having you guys.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian. And good luck, Andy, with the operation.
And you, Brian. See you, bye.